The Lear Center's mission is to study and shape the impact of media and entertainment on society.
Hollywood Health and Society, which is a program of the Norman Lear Center, recognizes the profound impact of entertainment media on knowledge and behavior. Hollywood Health and Society serves as a free resource to writers and producers to connect you all with experts on climate change and health for your scripts.
Well, as you've heard a couple times here tonight, Emma has been around for 24 years. We were founded by Lynn and Norman Lear and Cindy and Alan Horn with a mission to mobilize the entertainment industry in a global effort to educate people about environmental problems and inspire them into action.
So tonight we bring you one of the most compelling climate change films to date. It's award-winning, and we're very lucky that following the film we'll be able to hear from the producer and the writer. We'll also hear from a scientist from the Jet Propulsion Lab at NASA, and we'll also hear from one of the founding members of the UCLA Climate Solutions Program, who is now with the X Prize Foundation. We hope you're all entertained, we hope that you're informed, and we hope that you're inspired to write about climate change in your storylines. How has the film impacted people's perception, their attitudes, and their sense of urgency about climate change?
We had a screening in Utah with students, and we asked them, one girl said, do you hope this film will change people's perception on climate change? And we said, well, how many of you did this film change your perception? And 3/4 of the hands went up. And then we said, well, how many of you would like to share it? And pretty much every hand came up.
My job, or our job, first is to entertain folks. That's when you want to make a film, a feature film, you want to make sure you're entertaining people, or else no one will see it, and whatever message you're giving, no one will get it.
We've had the planet on a sort of high-carb diet for the last 100 years, and it's time to go lean and get green.
Climate change isn't just about the ice that's melting in the glaciers of our northern latitudes or in high mountains. Climate change is also the story of how a civilization that was built on 10,000 years of stable climate since the last ice age has decided to put itself, as Josh said, on a high carbon diet that's going to give us a climate we've never seen in the history of not only humankind, but really the majority of any part of our evolutionary history.
And when we started making this film, Al Gore had made his documentary, and it had become an issue, and then the pendulum swung. And you had things like the email scandal, and suddenly it was like, oh, it's not real. Climate change is not real.
Political issues aren't pendulums. Pendulums swing on their own free will, and these issues are pushed and pulled and yanked. And what happened during that period was that the other side just kind of beat us up.
There's a lot of polling data that actually shows that we're winning this argument, and that's for a few reasons. This polling data actually goes back quite a ways, and in the mid-1990s, there was no difference between Republicans and Democrats in their perception of climate change. Zero. That includes congressional Republicans and Democrats. And that's been polled basically since then. And the big change, the big shift, the big division between those two parties happened in the year 2000. Why is that? Al Gore and George Bush. Al Gore became identified, for all the good he's done, he became identified as a politician with the climate issue. I mean, this has been a passion of his for many, many years. And that helped kick off all of the sorts of things that Mark and Josh were describing in terms of this anti-science bias fixated on climate change.
There's been some pretty extreme cases. There was a woman who came out in Los Angeles from the theater, and our volunteer started filming her with his phone. And, she was saying, I love Bill O'Reilly, I love Fox, and I came in here to snicker and sneer, and I couldn't move when the film ended. And I'm going home, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to undo everything I've done.
The story of science and how it gets done, everything that Josh does in the lab every day of the week, is at least as compelling as the facts that get published in the paper that Rush Limbaugh takes issue with. In fact, the stories behind there are the sorts of things that give rise to scientists that are like Josh and say, I have a and myself, I have a reason to do this. there's something in my gut that makes me not only get up in the morning to study this more, but to be a part of giving that to people who can communicate it effectively in film, on television, in newspaper articles, on the radio, to their friends, on Facebook, whatever it happens to be.
What could an individual do? What could we do so that we could feel like we have some form of power over what our future is?
To really affect change, we have to do it at the highest levels. So I like to tell people that how you vote is as important as planting a tree or buying a Prius.
And when I saw this footage, I didn't know what to do. I'm not an activist. I didn't know how to get involved, but I knew how to produce. So I was able to give my service for 5 years on this project. So what I just want to encourage you is, because you all have amazing skills as writers and producers, to find out how you can plug into the solution, because you are going to be able to reach so many people with your talents.
Fact is greater than fiction here. And, just linking it and making it personal, I think we can overcome whatever the talking heads are doing for whatever their agendas are. I think that the power that the scripted world has is enormous.
Please contact Emma and Hollywood Health and Society if you're a writer or producer and you want to tell these stories and you want access to some of these experts. We're here to connect you.
And please join me in thanking the filmmakers, the scientists, the panelists.